you're saying that, I'm thinking, well, obviously more engagement costs more money. Do you vary your cost of sales model if you start segmenting based on customers that require higher touch points and higher levels of engagement versus those that you can maintain and win at a lower cost of engagement?
We have about 300 SaaS companies, B2B SaaS companies using our tech at the moment, and we see that a lot. So they won't have any sort of human engagement with customers that spend below a certain amount of money with them. But customers that then graduate or of a certain size, well, then they start throwing humans at those customers, but then they won't engage, they won't go on site to meet the customer unless they're of an additional size. So we certainly see that the maturing SaaS businesses that we're dealing with are really starting to segment not just their prospects, but also their existing customers as well.
So I'm going to take us back a little bit in the forecasting to talking about the pipeline. So I think one of the challenges to forecasting accurately is just in general how deals flow through the pipeline.
Yeah.
And then because we are all tied into these CRM systems, how we've actually defined those stages of the funnel. When you've gone out and talked to all these companies, are there any examples of where that's getting right or where you've seen it be almost like they're getting in their own way from accurately forecasting because this middle bit is just broken?
Yeah, everyone's got different names for all their stages in the sales process. Okay, so but for us, I suppose it doesn't really matter to us what you call the different stages. What we're interested in is what level of engagement is required to achieve the next status.
Could you back into it then? Could you say that if we have a certain level of engagement with a customer, we are then at this stage of the funnel?
What we'll do is when we onboard a customer, we'll go through, they could have had 1,000 opportunities closed in the last year. And we're going to tell you what level of engagement you achieved at every stage of that sales process for all 1,000 opportunities.
Yeah.
So the past is the indicator. So it's bespoke per customer. And we said earlier, we've got a roofing company in Texas that use us that need an engagement score of 32 just to get a deal done. While a software company in San Francisco, if they don't get to 87, the deal's never going to close. So it's bespoke per customer. And the same applies not just to getting to a close one status, but also every single stage of the sales process and beyond. So what about onboarding the customer and then upselling and cross-selling within that organization? What level of engagement do you need to achieve and with what stakeholders?
Yeah.
And the past will be your indicator. Understanding at a granular level all of the stakeholders involved in every sales process, the level of engagement achieved with each of them on every deal you've done in the past will give us a great indicator as to what the future should look like or what your pipeline needs to be. And the beauty is we don't need to ask the reps anything. We don't need them to log anything, okay? Because we grab the data from source.
Yeah, I'm sure that anyone that will listen to this interview will be able to identify with the frustration of trying to forecast and the hours spent trying to capture the accurate forecast and then the beatings that happen when the forecast is missed because people thought for sure something would happen. For all of those folks that are not yet using Ebsta or having that kind of engagement insight, what would your advice be to them on how to sort of take the reins on forecasting back a little bit? Where should they be focusing their efforts?
Stop all this manual processing and stop requesting square pegs, square holes. Okay, so let's get the people that are responsible for selling, and not responsible for admin. Okay, so let's play to everyone's strengths, and if we can get the salespeople engaging with their customers and their prospects, and not spending their time doing admin, which frankly they don't do anyway, right? So if you insist that they do the admin, they're going to do the absolute minimum they have to. They'll log one contact against one record, and you'll never get the data points you're looking for. And if you're trying to do it at scale, I could be, I'm a really bad sales rep, but every deal I work on, every call I make, I'm logging in the system, even a voicemail or a sent email. You're a phenomenal rep getting deals done every day, okay? But you only log them on the system once the deal is done. So how does now scale that to 100 sales reps? How does our manager actually report on that and start forecasting between us? It's just impossible. And so you end up spending a huge amount of man hours and really expensive man hours basically trying to trawl through and understand the real truth behind it all. And this comes down to one word, this idea of certainty. Okay, if we can get to a point that we've got absolute certainty that without exception, every relationship the business has is in Salesforce, every engagement is being recorded, all activity is captured, and engagement is benchmarked across every single relationship, then we no longer need to rely on what the reps tell us. We can actually just look at the data points.
So what do you think is the acceptable forecasting accuracy percentage? How close is good enough?
Different businesses are going to need different things, right? So, but if you're trying to scale your business, you want a scalable process for your forecasting, and if you can, and actually, it's an ever improving process. So, if you've got 4 stats that drive your revenue, which might be average deal value, time to close, and conversion rate. Then if you know what those stats are, then it's about incremental improvements across the board to achieve an exponential growth.
Yeah, marginal gains produce great results.
And we were able to prove it time and time again. We don't we go into a business and start just by benchmarking what good looks like and showing them the DNA of every deal they've worked on in the past. They're able to take a huge step forward overnight. It doesn't need to be a consultative, 6-month process. Once you've got the data in a consistent format and you've got an engine capturing all of the engagement, well, now you're at the races. Now you're at the starting gate. Now we can start to do some interesting things and pull on the levers required to actually drive revenue forward.
Get the insight. So what are those sort of key reports or KPIs that you need to be able to do that?
Your past is the history, is the benchmark for the future, right? Okay. So it's about engagement levels with every customer. It's to get deals done, as well as understanding the DNA of a deal. So which stakeholders do we need bought in every deal to get a deal done? And guess what? If you need the finance director bought into it to get your deal done, and you haven't spoken to the finance director yet, no surprise, your deal's not going to happen, right? Yeah. Or if the sales director needs to be bought in, and you forecast a deal for June, and you've just received an out of office telling you he's not back till July, well, guess what? Your deal's not going to happen, right? Yeah. So all of these indicators are signposts to tell you whether the deal's likely to happen or not. We don't need to stop what we're doing, prepare for a meeting, and then debate the pros and cons of this particular opportunity.
Yeah.
Make sense?
It totally makes sense. I think it's hopeful news, isn't it? That there is a way to get your arms around this beast. Every company I've ever worked with has this exact frustration of trying to get their forecasting accuracy right. I think sales leaders lie awake, dreading that Monday, meeting where either they're going to have to revise the number that they gave and usually not upward, which is the disappointment. But even then, right, actually overshooting your forecast isn't necessarily a favorable position to be in either. To be able to come in accurately within a few points of margin is what a business can successfully run itself off of and begin to predict revenue streams and know sort of which direction it needs to go in terms of resource allocation or anything else that it wants to achieve.
Look, unfortunately, the stuff that gets this that makes the difference is really boring. Okay, it's solving the data quality issues. It's having consistent ways of having all activity logged and in one system of record. And there's no getting away from it. We've got to solve the data quality challenges before you can get onto the exciting, sexy forecasting piece.
Yeah.
And in a world where by 2025 we're going to have 45 different data sources, you need a strategy now that's going to encompass all of those new data sources as they come along.
Right.
So we've got customers in APAC that are using texting services and things like instant messaging and WhatsApp, for example. Well, if business is being done on WhatsApp, how are you recording that in Salesforce, right? And how are you going to capture and free your reps to actually use any source they want, any way of engaging with their customers that they want, knowing that in the background you've got that special word certainty that all of that engagement is being captured. Okay, because then you're at the races. Now we know what's going on out there. We can start to measure what needs to be done and start to direct instead of just doing admin.
Well, and then sales reps can do what they were hired for, and that's selling.
Exactly, building relationships with prospects and customers, engaging with them, proving trust, and getting deals done.
Well, your passion for the topic is really easy to see, and it's exciting, and it is encouraging to know that there are tools out there that can sort of demystify something that keeps us all awake too many nights. I thank you so much for your time today. It's really been great.
Thank you for having me.
We look forward to speaking again.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.